If you are new to this channel, please subscribe and don't forget to like and comment. Today's first story, my 34F husband, M37, got an STD while cheating, slipped me half of his antibiotics for it, and fessed up to everything later. I'm divorcing him, but I'm not sure if I should let him maintain a relationship with our children. 5F, M7. Sorry for the huge mouthful of a title. I'll try to keep this complicated situation as shortly as possible. In early April, my husband started making me smoothies every day after work. I felt this was incredibly odd, because he has never cooked anything for me, but he called it a new hobby, and so I thought little of it. After a couple of days of this, when I wasn't in the mood for one of his creations, he started to become very insistent that I drink it. This set off alarms in my head, which made my aversion to his creations worse. That night I prepared a vegan curry for dinner. Knowing something was up, I pretended I was going to the bathroom, sneaked out, and looked into the dining room from the patio outside. From there I caught my husband red-handed putting something into my bowl and mixing it. I thought he was trying to roofie me, which would have been weird as I never deny him but when confronted he finally told me that it was a crushed up antibiotic for gonorrhea. He had gotten gonorrhea from a res worker and realized he may have infected me with it, so he started slipping me half of his medicine just in case. I have tried to work through it with him with marriage counseling, but it's just impossible. He is incredibly apologetic, with frequent sobbing breakdowns, and doing everything he can to salvage our relationship, but I can't even stand the sight of the man. He repulses me on such a visceral level that the mere thought of staying married to him for even a day longer turns my stomach. I told him a week ago that I was filing for divorce. The situation right now is that, because of what he did, I can easily get full custody. He knows this for obvious reasons. I'm fairly sure it's a felony to give people drugs against their will. But he is begging and pleading for me to let him have a life with his children. I'm so torn on this, with pressure from his family, who don't know what he did, to stay together, and our children. He is a good dad. I believe that. But I don't think I could trust him with the two children I'm supposed to love and protect the most. Could anyone here who has experience in this sort of thing, although I don't think anyone here has been fed STD medication against their will, shine a light on it? For what it matters, I have tested negative for all STDs and we have not slept together a single time since I caught him. TLDR, my husband slipped me STD medication after catching a venereal disease, got caught, and I'm not sure if I want to let him see his children again. That's the end of first story. If you guys not subscribed yet, please subscribe. Let's start the second one. My MIL and SIL hate me for supporting my wife's decision to quit her high-powered career to become a stay-at-home mom. Is there any salvaging my relationship with the in-laws? My wife and her family have always been extremely career-focused. My wife and her sister was raised that it's their duty as women to be at the top of the professional game, not just breaking, but obliterating the glass ceiling. Her mother is proud that she went back to her C-level job a month after giving birth to each of her children. Thus, my wife has always made it a point of pride that she's been extremely successful in a highly male-dominated field, investment banking, and really enjoys living for work. She's on track to become the youngest ever female managing director at her firm, and one of the youngest ever MDs overall. I'm hugely supportive of this. I took a full year of parental leave when we had our first child 3 years ago, so that my wife could be 100% back to her job as quickly as possible. However, when my wife was pregnant with our second child earlier this year, she confessed to me that the experience of staying at home with our 3-year-old due to the pandemic had made her reevaluate her life priorities, that spending extended time with our child was far more rewarding than work ever was, and that after the birth of our second child, she's planning to quit her job entirely and be a SAHM for the next few years. I fully support her decision. We are easily able to afford the loss of her income, and after our second child was born a couple months ago, and my wife quit her job, I've never seen her happier. Her mother and sister are absolutely appalled with her decision. They've tried to convince her that she's falling into the trap that kills the careers of many successful women, that her decision to be a SAHM is due to societal pressure, and that she's even being a bad woman by succumbing to traditional gender norms. Both my MIL and SIL have tried to get me on their side and talk some sense into my wife, but I refuse. She is her own person capable of making her own decisions, and I will fully support her choices. As a result, I've had a complete falling out with my in-laws. They've called me misogynistic, that's it so convenient, that the woman has to give up her position of power but you don't, and even accused me of wanting to kill my wife's career due to jealousy, that she would soon significantly out-earn me. When my wife denies this, and defends her choice and my support of it, my in-laws treat her like a victim. This really upsets both of us. It's incredibly patronizing to my wife to assume that she's some weak victim caving to societal pressure and not making her own autonomous decision, and incredibly insulting to me to assume that I'm some male chauvinist monster who wants to sabotage her career. Anything we say to defend her choice just makes them dig in more. Any advice on salvaging our relationship with MIL/SIL, or are we just going to have to deal with them despising us for the rest of our lives? Since the submission rules ask for it, wife and I are in our mid-30s, been together for about 10 years. SIL is in her 30s. MIL is in her 70s. We are all located in the US. Best comment for this story. First of all, this is your in-laws' problem, not yours. You and your wife made this decision jointly, and the two of you are the only ones who need to be involved in this decision. Second, in the future, whenever they try to bring this up again, enforce your boundaries. Simply say, when they start on the same rant, I won't discuss this any further. And mean it. If they're in the room with you, I won't discuss this any further, and if they persist, leave the room. If you're on the phone, I won't discuss this any further, and if they persist, end the call. If you're at their house and they start in, I won't have this discussion, and if they persist, leave. If they are at your home, I won't have this discussion, and if they persist, ask them to leave. And you'll need your wife's support on this one. In short, refuse to discuss it with them any longer, and do whatever it takes to get the point across this subject, is verbatim in your presence.